Welcome back to Conspired, where skeptics and believers come together to discover the truth.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
No more singing.
What are you talking about?
I'm kidding. We can sing as much as we
If
want
you can
to.
have your dad jokes, then I can definitely sing.
All right. I'll give you that.
Okay. So,
Where are we at?
where are we at? No, that's where are we at?
Where are we at?
Where are we? That's
Where are we?
proper.
You know that I'm born and raised West Virginia. It's not going to change.
While, just to open this, I want to go ahead and address episode 3, or part 3 rather, of
yes.
our series on Jodi Arias we recorded. And we didn't realize until after the fact, after we played it back, that there was a little bit of distortion with our voices. It became clear that they were relatively lower with this distortion. And although we noticed it, just because we're both kind of perfectionists when it comes to this thing,
Extremely.
we felt that it wasn't going to be worth it to go back and re-record just to fix this, because aside from the distortion, the quality was, fine, as it always is, but we like to bring you the most candid and most raw discussions as possible, and you have to understand that when we're talking about these things, I've done the research and I'm telling you guys about them and, Gerald about them for the first time. And I like for his reactions in our discussions to be very candid and very real. And if he had already heard the information, then it just kind of would have been fake.
Because I don't know as much about this stuff as she does. I may have watched it on TV when it first came out, but she has researched it so much, read books, watched documentaries, everything. And so she talks to me as though I pretend like I'm a jury member and she's telling me this stuff. And I try to make an educated guess as to whether there's guilt or why there's guilt, or if there's innocence.
Right. So we just felt that it wasn't worth it to go back and re-record it. It wasn't a huge faux pas. It was noticeable to us, and we didn't hate it. Maybe to some of our podcast friends, it will be noticeable to you.
And we had a couple of friends, podcasters, listen to it, and
we do want to give a shout out to a couple.
Oh, I already told her we're going to play some promos at the end. So stay tuned for the promos at the end.
We have a couple specific shout outs we want to give.
Yeah, they really stepped up and tried to help us out.
But regardless, we were glad to be able to release that. But I did want to clarify that.
Yeah, it's good to let them know that they're not all going to sound like part 3.
No, we were very much aware of what it was, but it is what it is.
It's because we are using 2 microphones now, and we were trying to use Voicemeeter, so that we could have 2 of them going at the same time.
And if I could just go ahead and say, I'm going to highly not recommend Voicemeeter. If you were a new podcaster or looking to do any kind of recording with multiple microphones, I would not recommend Voicemeter. The program altogether looks relatively simple, but ultimately is a little too complex, has too many bugs.
It's not bugs. It's getting your computer to
cooperate with it.
Yeah, cooperate with it. It's like you have to set up the playback and the recording. And if somebody knows how to set it up, please email me at conspired@gmail.com, because I gave up and it just downloaded the VB what's it called? The VB cord or something like that. I don't know. It's some kind of connector that it just pretends like it's a input for the microphones, so that the computer thinks there's 2.
He's speaking Greek to me. He handles all this hookup technology stuff, but I did see him struggle with it. It annoyed me, it annoyed him, and overall just wasn't a good experience. So eventually I convinced him to delete the program from the computer, and now we're just using Audacity with some what do you call these things that we have now?
The speaker or mics?
No.
The sound boxes. Yeah, we created new sound boxes. We went to Wally World, and we picked up some foam and some vinyl boxes and stuck them together. I'll put it on Twitter.
Sure.
You can check them out. Tell us what you think.
It's different. I like the way the sound is going. We're still, kind of trial and error with this kind of stuff. We're only almost 4 months into this, so.
And we're not in the floor in our
walk-in closet.
In the walk-in closet.
Absolutely. which I'm going to miss the closet, I won't lie.
It was comfortable.
I did like it.
Yeah.
It was relatively spacious, but
We'll
I
keep
am
upgrading
glad
as
that
we go.
we have a table and, you know.
The other thing we were going to mention is merchandise.
Yes. So, this is something kind of in the future. I've had a couple people talk to me about this recently, about merchandise for the podcast Conspired. Now, we are still in the process of finalizing our logo. The logo you see on Twitter, Instagram, all our social media will be changing in the future.
Yeah, what I drew was just a rough draft, and we have a friend that has friends that are tattoo artists that are going to touch it up, punch some, color into it, and really make it look great.
Yeah, we wanted a more original looking logo, and fortunately we had some people that knew how to do this, and so the logo is going to encompass all of the things that this podcast discusses. So really looking forward to that. So when that does get finalized, we are looking at creating some type of, probably just t-shirts.
I like the t-shirt idea where we have the logo on the front and then skeptic and then on one shirt and then believer on the other shirt. Mm-hmm. And then they can just decide which one they want, which side they're on. Are they Team Natalie or Team Geraldine?
Where do you fall?
Where do you
But
stand?
yeah, and this is not going to be something that's initially for profit. As we're gaining more followers and notoriety, and I have more people approach me about these kinds of things, I know that other podcasts do this, and so naturally, it would be a logical question to ask if we do this. So it is something we're looking into.
Yeah, whatever our cost is, that's what I want to sell the t-shirts as.
Correct. So there really won't be any profit on our part. It'll be more so like publicity, I think.
And I'd kind of like to put our money into it and get a couple of shirts to like giveaways.
Sure, yeah.
We'll figure out something that
we'll figure out. Just wanted to let you know it's in the future. It's up and coming. So yeah, just wanted to address the technological issues and future plans. And so we are now on episode 15.
Well, before that,
okay.
I'd just like to say we are 3 months and 3 weeks in, and we are at 8,825 downloads.
I'm going to set that 10,000 mark, which is good.
Just want to thank all the listeners out there for getting us there.
Because, it's not, because I know there are a lot of podcasts out there that have more than that.
I spoke to one podcaster who said he had 50,000 downloads in 3 months.
And, it's all about word of mouth. It's all about reviews. It's all about ratings. And I'm pleased with what we've had so far, but always encourage, if you're listening, to give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review on iTunes if you can find the time.
Yeah, like we say before, whenever you go into iTunes, you don't have to leave a review. You can just click the 5-star,
I do that all the time, like on iTunes. If it's a song I like, I always do.
Yeah, me too. Whenever I listen to other podcasters on here, even if I don't like it, if I like it, I'll leave a review. But if it's not for me, I don't like to give it lower stars because somebody else may say, well, this is a great podcast.
And if altogether it's just a well-done podcast, sounds good,
If they have good flow,
discussion.
Yes, good discussions. And
but it's just not for you. Yeah, somebody else might like it.
And if it isn't, if I don't feel like it has all that, I don't give it any stars. I just ignore it and go on to the next one.
But yes, so definitely wanted to address future plans and all these tech issues and what's to come in the future. So
I'm looking forward to it. I really want to see what this new logo is going to look like. I know what it's going to look like, but I want to see what it's going to look like with the color added to it.
Okay. So with that being said, we will now begin with episode 15, which is part 4 of our mini-series on Jodi Arias, the case of Jodi Arias. And we left off last week discussing the closing of the defense of the trial. And I did want to address also, I think last week we talked, or I kind of said towards the end that, or you were kind of the opinion that although the defense did not change your opinion of what had happened.
It definitely didn't change my opinion that she was like not guilty. To me she was guilty.
But it did give you a new perspective on Travis himself.
Yes.
Because I feel like his friends and family tended to paint him as a very good Mormon man. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that he wasn't a good person, and it's not to say that he wasn't a good Mormon. It's to say that,
it's tough out there.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's to say that nobody's perfect. If someone goes on trial, they want to dig up the skeletons in your closet, they're gonna find some. Yeah. If I were murdered and the person who murdered me wanted to find things, but they definitely could. I'm not saying I'm like a murderer or anything, or I've done any awful things.
Evil.
But they can make you look bad however they want to.
Yeah, okay? Exactly. They could paint you in this awful picture.
The defense did say some things about the pedophilia, for instance, that I absolutely don't agree with. And
I think the abuse did happen, whether it was verbal or physical.
I don't think there's enough evidence for physical abuse.
Not physical.
But there is evidence for verbal abuse, so they did prove that. They did prove.
Yes.
Now, did they prove that this verbal abuse was consistent and was ongoing? I don't know. Because we only have... now, the text messages did range in time, but we don't know if this was a consistent thing. We don't know if every time he saw her, he was like, "Shut up, you B," like... or
"Shut up, B."
Or "You slut, skank." Like, we don't know if he said all these things to her on the reg, but, they did prove that there had been some verbal abuse.
Right.
To Jodi. Now, she probably did things 10 times worse.
I won't go and say 10 times worse, but I was just going to say that she probably did things...
I think those texts were taken out of context.
I think they pushed each other.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what she was saying to him in those texts. She could have been like, "All right, you bastard," whatever. Like, and it could have been taken out of context, and it's like, what are you...
Mm-hmm. He might have
just been defending himself, and she could have called him names. We just don't know.
Exactly.
But... all in all, it didn't paint him in the best light, especially the comment he made on the infamous phone call. That was a little creepy. But at the same time, everybody's got their vices.
And it doesn't mean that they deserve to die.
No, of course not.
Nobody deserves to die over
And you know what? Everybody's got their vices. Travis's vice, his demon, was girls, was women. That was his weakness. He, wanted... He was a big flirt. He was a ladies' man. He wanted the perfect Mormon wife, but at the same time, he wanted someone who was...
He wanted a lady in the street, but freaking dead.
He wanted the promiscuity. Like,
right. Exactly.
He wanted that behind closed doors, but not where everyone could see. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he wanted to have his cake and eat it too. I've kind of said that phrase before. But, again, that doesn't mean he deserved to die. And there are plenty of people who are like that. Probably more often than not, people are like that and have something about them that they don't like. And we don't know.
Except for you guys. You guys, our listeners, probably have.
But, Travis probably hated that about himself.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, honestly...
it's like having a vice or a demon. Alcoholics have this urge
and
to
Jodi
go drink.
And let's say he was an alcoholic, and Jodi's sitting there saying, "Here, have a beer.
Look,
have another beer.
Yeah.
Have another beer." She's sitting there. He's got this struggle. She's probably aware of it. Mm-hmm. She loves him. Yeah. She doesn't want to give him up, so she's dangling herself in front of him.
Right. Which keeps him around.
Right. She's like, "I'll give you this. She won't give you that." And he's like, and she's like, "I know you really want this," and he's like, "Yeah, I really want that."
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I mean, he's human,
Yes. All right, we've got that established. I'm looking forward.
Let's move on with some new information.
To the verdict.
So we left off with the verdict last week. So the Jodi Arias her testimony, which lasted 18 days, we learned from last week, added to a very long defense portion of the guilt phase of the trial, which led to problems with retention of jury members. On April 3rd, a member of the jury was dismissed for, quote, misconduct. And I guess I'll go ahead and address what this misconduct was because it didn't actually come out until later. Supposedly, there was a male juror that had developed an infatuation with Jodi.
Well, that's not good.
For lack of a better...
How in the world could you be infatuated with... Well,
for lack of a better word, it seemed he had a crush on her. I mean, honestly, that's what it seemed like it was.
I mean, she's not ugly.
No, she's not ugly. And honestly, when she was in her prime, I think I would even have considered her beautiful, like a really good-looking girl.
All right, so I guess I can understand how he did that.
So, but anyway, the judge decided to dismiss this jury. It was not up to the prosecutors. It was not up to the defense attorneys. The judge had this decision. And so when this happened, the defense team asked for a mistrial, but the judge denied this. So on April 12th, another juror was excused for health reasons. And then finally, a third juror was dismissed on April 25th after being arrested for a DUI offense. Okay, I want to address this because you're probably wondering about this.
Why a DUI? I thought they were put in like a hotel, like sequestered is the word?
So in Casey Anthony, we talked about how all the jury members were sequestered for months while the trial went on. Well, these jury members were actually local in Arizona and were allowed, to the best of my knowledge, to stay in their respective homes. And so, so they were allowed to kind of be on their own. And I don't know all the specifics of this.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know anything about...
They could have been able to monitor their computer activity, their television activity. I'm not 100% sure on this. But I do know that a jury member was dismissed for getting a DUI during this time.
See, that just blows my mind because they could be sitting at home, more liberal be watching MSNBC on the news, and the more conservative be watching, say, Fox News.
Sure. And
you'd be getting different ideas.
And like I said, I don't know if there was a way to monitor that. I'm not for sure about that. It's just like, things like that's weird to me, but I also wish, one thing I do love about this court is that the jury has the ability to ask questions, and I have no idea why that's not a thing in every state.
Why is that not a thing in every state?
That's something, especially if I were the one on trial, I would love to have jury members ask me if I was innocent, and for some reason I was on the stand, which I wouldn't be, because we've already discussed this. Don't take the stand, ever.
If you've listened to past episodes, you understand that.
But... no, I would love for jury members to... If I was on a jury, I'd want that ability to be asked.
I guess...
Because if I'm confused about something as a jury member, just like you ask me questions, I would want that ability.
Right. To us, that would be a great ability, but to judges, they would be like, oh my gosh, there's
it's a lot of work.
300 questions.
I have to go through all these questions, decide which ones to let in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But at the same time, it's like, what if it was your life on trial there?
But you have to wonder if there are some judges, I'm not saying all judges, and I'm just saying some judges that are just like tired of
reading questions.
Yes, and going through through this all the time, and just like, okay, here we go again.
I couldn't have seen Judge Belvin Perry from the Casey Anthony trial, but he would have been like, I'm done with this. He was like, y'all just...
No more questions, thank you.
Yeah. But, so, that happened. So 3 jury members were dismissed.
Okay.
So as of April 25th, 2012, defense costs had reached almost $1.7 million paid by taxpayers. Now that's from the previous year, 2012. Now keep in mind this trial is taking place in 2013. Okay, so $1.7 million of our tax money going to defend the lovely Jodi Arias. How's that make you feel?
Pretty crappy. That $1.7 million?
Just for the defense.
Oh my
Because
God.
remember, she's being defended by public defenders. She's not paying them.
Right, no, I understand that. That's just a whole lot of money down the drain.
Yeah. And I've always wondered, too, maybe people who are listening to this can tell me, you'd think I would know, but I wonder what the difference is between a public defender and a private attorney, because like does the public defender do less work? Are they just not as skilled?
That's what I was thinking. I thought that they were just like either less skilled or they were working like pro bonos and
Are they just as good as the private attorneys? Because if that's the case, why would everyone not just do public defender and not pay money? You know what I'm saying?
I was going to say, I've always heard that most people want to get private.
There has to be a difference.
Yeah. So if you know that, send us a message on Twitter,
if you happen
or
to be,
actually send it at conspired@gmail.
Yeah, if you're someone who knows more in depth about the differences between those two careers.
Yeah, because we love learning new things from our...
I actually might look that up after this, because I actually am interested in that.
Yeah.
But
still send it to us.
Still, our tax money was paying for that. Okay. So on May 7th, 2013, after 15 hours of deliberation, which is not a lot of time for deliberation, honestly, and they say that if you're waiting on a verdict and, if you're a defense attorney, whatever, it's never a good thing if they finish that quickly.
Right.
It almost always is in favor of the prosecution when it's...
What is a good amount of time?
Couple days, 3 days.
Oh, if it takes them a long time, then there
could
could be a hung jury.
Because then that means they're actually looking at the evidence.
They're going back and forth.
They're not just,
when it's short, they're
fighting
like,
over
what,
something.
this person is guilty or this person is
and so, but after 15 hours of deliberation, Jodi was found guilty of first-degree murder. And I don't think anyone in the court was surprised except for Jodi.
Yeah, she was the only
She was shocked.
in the world, probably.
Out of 12 jurors, 5 jurors found her guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, while 7 jurors found her guilty of both premeditated murder and felony murder. And as to the difference of those two, I have an idea, but I don't want to give misinformation to our listeners, so I don't want to go too in-depth with that.
Right.
But, yeah. There is a difference between those, but again, I don't want to say what I think because I don't want it to be incorrect. So I'll just press onward. As the guilty verdict was read, Alexander's family smiled, and then actually, I remember when it was read, there was an audible cry from one of Travis had several sisters, four I believe. There was an audible cry from one of his sisters, like of joy, of happiness, obviously.
I would hope so.
And people outside the courtroom began cheering and chanting. So basically the opposite reaction of Casey Anthony. People were throwing stuff at their TV, and now it's a celebration in the streets because they feel like the jury got it right. Jodi so backtrack. Jodi's face was just stunned. She could not believe it. You could tell on her face she thought for sure she was getting away with this. And I think that really speaks to how delusional she is.
Oh, well... Yeah, I think from listening to everything, I think she's delusional.
After all of this, I'm sorry, when your defense attorney has to plead, all right, only find her guilty of manslaughter, when at first your defense was self-defense, they obviously know their defense is going downhill.
Right.
You have to know your defense is going downhill.
Obviously.
How in the world could you expect to get off scot-free? I don't get it. But immediately after the verdict was read, Jodi gave a media interview, literally the minute she walked out of the courtroom. She gave a media interview. She had it set up before even.
She had it set up. She talked to...
She told them that she would give an interview right after the verdict was read. So the guy
she thought, you know what, I'm not going to...
So the guy was waiting, whatever. And she famously told them that death was the ultimate freedom. So she would prefer to get her freedom as soon as she could, because ultimately, after the guilty verdict was read, the judge, then was the sentencing phase. And so after this, the jury had to decide, okay, is she going to get life imprisonment or is she going to face the death penalty? So that was going to be the decision the following trial. And so right after she was found guilty, Jodi gave this post-conviction interview, and I did want to play just a clip of that so you guys could hear this.
Well, the worst outcome for me would be natural life. I would much rather die sooner than later. Longevity runs in my family, and I don't want to spend the rest of my natural life in one place. I'm pretty healthy. I don't smoke, and I would probably live a long time. So that's not something I'm looking forward to. I said years ago that I'd rather get death than life, and that still is true today. I believe death is the ultimate freedom, so I'd rather just have my freedom as soon as I can get it.
So, pretty much what I said. You can hear kind of the disembodiment in her voice.
She didn't. I didn't really hear any emotion. It was just like
It's
emotionless. It was just.
No,
I guess she could be in shock. Yeah.
That's what initially, because I've watched that interview several times. Shock is what I see on her face, and kind of like almost resentment. I think is there a little detection there too. I'm not the facial and body expert like you are.
Well, I didn't really watch it. I just listened to it. So it's always better to watch something without sound because you can actually see the micro expressions, the movements, and see how they're really reacting.
To listen to that full interview, which is very interesting, which immediately followed her guilty verdict. You can go onto YouTube and just type in Jodi post-conviction interview, and it should come up.
Oops.
All right. Why don't you put the phone down, and then we'll...
All right, we'll keep going.
Okay. So, following the first-degree murder conviction, the prosecution was required to convince the jury that the murder was cruel, heinous, or depraved in order for them to determine that Arias was eligible for the death penalty. So basically, they have another trial. And in this trial, they have to decide if she's going to get the death penalty. And in order to do that, just like it said, the prosecution, aka Juan Martinez, has to prove that the way she killed him was especially cruel. Okay, or heinous, and caused him pain.
Well, that shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. Because you have to understand that, obviously Jodi said, oh, I killed him in self-defense, whatever. It's already a step. Because
self-defense.
I know, but because she has now been convicted of killing him with premeditation, because she's now convicted of that has to be believed as fact. So now they have to believe, okay, she killed him on purpose. She knew she was going to do it. Now, did she kill him in a cruel way? Okay, so Jodi can no longer say, well, I didn't do it. Now the defense has to kind of turn the tables and say, it wasn't that cruel. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird because now there's the conviction. Now we have to believe this is fact.
So before they had to lie the whole time to say that she was not a murderer. And now they have to turn it around and say, okay, well, she is a murderer.
Now she's a murderer.
But she's not a cruel murderer.
Exactly.
She's just a gentle murderer.
You got the nail on the head. They can no longer argue it was self-defense. That was not proven. What has been proven, according to the jury, was that she did it and she premeditated it. So now the only issue is, was the murder cruel, heinous, or depraved?
Wow. Okay, that seems like that would be very difficult.
Okay. So the aggravation phase of the trial started on May 15th, 2013, so shortly after. The only witness to testify for the prosecution was the medical examiner who actually performed the autopsy, as he was the only person who could actually speak to what Travis's body was actually going through during the time he was killed, how much pain he would have been in, because he could speak to that. Jodi's attorneys, however, who had repeatedly asked to step down from the case after she was found guilty, even before that.
Wait, they're trying to, quit after...
Yeah, they're done.
All right, she's guilty.
But listen, Kurt Nurmi, I told you this last time, he tried to get away the whole time.
No, I realized that. I knew that before, but now I didn't... Is that even possible in any case?
Yeah, because you're not bound by law to do it. As long as if the judge says it's okay, then you can. But obviously the judge was not going to, because it would not be fair to Jodi.
Right, because they know...
If a random attorney came in after they quit, not knowing anything about it, they wouldn't know what to argue. So it really wasn't fair, and I don't blame the judge at all for telling them no.
Right.
I don't blame them for wanting to get out of it. I'm sure if they could get out of it, they wanted to.
Well, no, if you get into something, it's your job to stick it through.
Not if you detest the person you're defending, which is, I don't know.
Then I wouldn't have got into it from the beginning. If I would have looked at everything and saw how many stabbings...
In Kurt Nurmi's book, well, you have to understand that in public defending, you're assigned cases.
Oh, they just say, here you go, here's your next case.
Yes.
And then
maybe that's one of the biggest differences between private, because private, you choose who you take.
Right, unless you have a higher up that says, we need you to take on this case.
Right. Yeah, so you're given the case. And so you don't get to say, I don't want this person.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't. Yeah, I could see why I wouldn't want to be.
And then after you read it, you're probably like, great, this is going to be difficult. And then you meet her, and she's crazy AF, and you're like, I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
But to his credit, Kurt Nerby tried to get out, very much well before this case went to trial. So,
right.
But I don't know why they would attempt to get out at this point. I mean, just see it through.
I guess, I was going to say, just to see if they could get away with it. Like, you know what? We'd love to.
And I don't know if it was just because of Jodi. I don't know if it looked bad on them to lose 2 trials in a row, because technically this is a brand new trial.
Yeah, but
the aggravation phase.
I wouldn't think that anybody would see it as 2 trials.
They do, I believe, though.
No, I'm saying they see it as 2 trials, but say, for instance, they have to have a certain record of how many trials they win compared to how many trials they lose.
Mm-hmm.
If they were trying to be hired onto a private, firm, then they would probably see it as 1.
Maybe.
Like, you know what? They lost this one. It was considered 2, but it's still just 1.
Yeah, maybe so. The medical examiner is the only witness for the prosecution, and he performed Travis's autopsy. Jodi's attorneys for this part of this trial only gave brief opening statements and closing arguments in which they said that the adrenaline rushing through Travis's body may have prevented him from feeling much pain during his death. So that's their defense.
I guess that's possible, because I've always heard about people getting shot and their adrenaline is going so fast that they don't really feel anything, or people that get in car wrecks. I have a couple friends that either used to be or still are policemen or firemen or EMS, and they're talking about how when people are in car wrecks, they're in such shock and the adrenaline's flowing that they just don't even know what's going on or where they're at.
And the craziest thing about it is we'll never know.
No, we definitely won't.
We'll never know, because anyone that's happened to is dead. So we can't bring it in and be like, hey, when you got shot, were you still alive? Did it hurt? Could you feel it?
Or get stabbed or get your throat cut.
I guess the only, medical examiners are probably the closest we have to knowing about that, because they know the science behind how the body works and all that stuff. So, all right, so prosecutor Juan Martinez showed photos of the corpse of Travis and crime scene to the jury. And then he actually paused for 2 minutes of silence to illustrate how long it took for Travis to die at Jodi's hands.
2 minutes?
So what he did in the courtroom was he told the whole courtroom to be quiet for 2 solid minutes, because he wanted them all to feel how long it took Travis to die and how long he suffered.
And some people don't even like uncomfortable silence. So
yeah, it was.
So multiply that by 1 million, and that's pretty much probably what
you gotta hand it to Juan here, though, because that's ingenious. Like, what else are you going to be thinking about in that 2 minutes other than Travis suffering?
Right. Especially if you put that into their heads.
Yeah.
Right before the 2 minutes starts.
Yeah, because that's all you're. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's all you're going to be thinking about.
Exactly.
So. I'm sorry. I lost my place.
They're just quiet for 2 minutes. They're thinking about what Travis went through, and then.
Okay. So, after less than 3 hours of consideration, when the jury went to deliberate, because like I said, this was a very brief trial, they determined that Jodi was eligible for the death penalty. So at this point, they've decided that she's eligible. Now to decide, it's the penalty phase. Aggravation phase is to decide, is she eligible? Okay, she is. Penalty phase to decide, is she actually going to get it?
Right.
Okay,
I got that.
All right, so the penalty phase began on May 16th, 2013, when prosecutors called Travis's family members to offer victim impact statements in an effort to convince the jury that Jodi's crime merited a death sentence. And this is pretty common for penalty phases where they have the victim's family actually come and speak. This is kind of a way to personalize the victim and, understand what kind of impact it had, not only on the victim, but on
everybody
his
in his
family.
Life. Yeah,
right.
Everybody in his life, not just family.
And honestly, I listened to these victim impact statements. It's hard not to be moved by Travis's sisters, who were so broken up, so
Yeah, could you
sad.
imagine, like,
Well,
say your brother or one of your sisters?
Well, I know, and not to say that you wouldn't be broken up any sibling dying, but especially Travis, because the way they described him, he was, their big brother. He kind of held the family together. Like I said, he was raised by two drug addicts. Their parents were two drug addicts, and during that time, he really kind of stepped up for his younger sisters, and was kind of a father figure as best he could be. And so he meant a lot to their family. And so, the poor girls could barely, get words out at the crying so much.
Mm-hmm.
And Jodi creepily just stared at him the whole time. Like, so creepy. Oh, by the way, side note, I just thought about this, and I know I want to mention it. It's probably the best time to mention it. After Travis died, a couple days after, before police were involved, Jodi had sent an email to one of Travis's sisters.
That's creepy.
Sent an email because Travis owed Jodi $200 because she had lent him some money, and Travis actually...
Don't tell me she asked the
She
sister.
asked his sister if Travis had... no, I'm sorry. Jodi had written Travis a check, and she wanted to know if Travis had cashed the check. So, she made up some reason why she wanted to know this, but so she wrote to see if Travis had cashed the check to see if his sister knew, right after he was dead.
I'm at loss for words.
I'm sorry. I just thought that just might throw that in there. Just another.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a zinger. I don't even know how to take that. Like, usually
She's
I
crazy.
can
That's
talk
how you take it.
Yeah, I know, but there's different levels, and that's really way up there. Like,
I'll tell you exactly what I think about her at the end of this.
okay.
So on May 21st, 2013, Jodi offered an allocution during which she pleaded for a life sentence. Now, I think this is relatively sad, but during the penalty phase of the trial, not one person besides Jodi herself was there to be a defense witness. Because normally this is the time, the victim impact statements, it's the family of the victim comes to speak. And normally on the other side of the defense, you have the family of the accused come to speak. She did not have one person come to speak on her behalf besides herself.
I can kind of understand why she wouldn't have somebody to come defend her. I mean,
I have empathy. Like, that really
there's
did.
no empathy for that.
I don't know.
I don't see how. No empathy, none whatsoever. She just, after everything that I've heard Travis go through, I don't see how anybody would want to defend her at all. Even if that was my sister, if my sister did something that heinous, I would just be, I don't know, I'd probably distance myself. I couldn't be around that.
But you feel like if it's a matter between life or death, whatever my siblings did, whatever anybody did, even if it's someone I don't know, I've said this before and I'll say it again.
Yeah, I know. You don't believe in the death penalty.
I don't believe in a death penalty. I don't think anyone deserves to die. It makes you just as vile as the person who killed your loved one or someone else. And I know
I can see your side,
I know
yes.
everyone doesn't agree with that.
No,
That's what I
can
feel.
understand that.
If someone killed a family member of mine, I would not want them to die. That wouldn't be, then that doesn't bring back my family member. It doesn't give me peace. So no, I'd want them to have a life sentence. And just like I said, if my family member were someone who did something like this and killed someone and it was proved and whatever, I would probably speak not to defend their actions, but to say just what I told you. I don't think anybody has the right to make anybody else die.
Well, on the other hand of that, say for instance, a serial killer goes out and kills multiple people. So you have multiple families that are impacted by this.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of the death penalty and ridding our society of somebody who is just going to murder, then we're giving them 3 hots and a cot, something that they would probably would be comfortable with, when we could just...
Well, here's the thing, and I know a lot of people's reason for supporting the death penalty is that our tax dollars pay for them to continue to live. However, it comes down to, with me personally, it's a moral thing with me. I couldn't live with myself knowing that I caused someone else to be killed.
Would you be comfortable if, instead of a prison, we had an island, and everybody that was murderers, you just put them on this island, and it's always patrolled around the outside, and they have to survive. It's like Survivor.
As long as they were not being killed.
Right. We're not killing them. We're just putting them on an island.
Sure.
There's ways to survive on this island, but they have to, do it themselves.
I would be more likely to support... I would support that. I mean, I wouldn't be gung-ho about it, but I mean, that's...
Well, if you had a choice between
fair.
a prison that lets them watch television and lift weights and go out in the yard and, whatever else they do, or go onto an island and just survive.
Yeah, I could be for that. Because obviously you want punishment for someone, but ultimately...
Yes, especially for murder.
Ultimately, I believe in, obviously me, I believe that karma comes in one form or another, in this life or another. I believe that it's not my job to give karma to someone. It's not anyone's job to give karma to anyone. Life is going to give them karma. And it's it's not my job. I don't get to choose who lives and who dies. It's not my responsibility. I don't have that right.
Well, the reason that I say...
Bring it back full circle to this.
The reason that I say this is because I understand what you're saying. And the reason that I would be against the death penalty is because what if you're wrong? What if they're not guilty? What if there was some circumstantial evidence that showed that they were guilty, but really they weren't?
Exactly. But even if they were guilty, I still don't think we have the right to do that.
Okay. All right. I got you.
That's just my opinion.
Let's jump back into it.
But we said all this to say, bringing it back to our topic here. If Jodi was my sister, I would speak on the behalf of not just my sibling, but of anyone. I would simply go up there. You don't have the right to kill her. I wouldn't say about why she should live. Because Jodi is an awful person. I feel pretty comfortable saying that.
Yeah, she's a little bit bad,
No, I know it's hard to say that this person's bad, but I genuinely feel like there's plenty of evidence to say she is not a good person.
Yeah, I know that.
So even if she was my sister, I could not say anything good about her.
You would just defend her as a please person, don't kill
as a human
her.
Being.
She is a human being.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But with that being said,
sense.
no one came to even do that. Jodi was her only defender that day. And so she pleaded for a life sentence. And she acknowledged that her plea for life was a reversal of remarks she made to a TV reporter shortly after her conviction, which we just listened to, right, where she said she preferred the death penalty. And she said, quote, "Each time I said that, I meant it, but I lacked perspective," she said. "Until very recently, I could not imagine standing before you and asking you to give me life." And Jodi went on to say she changed her mind to avoid bringing more pain to more members of her family who were in the courtroom. At one point, she held up a white t-shirt with the word "survivor" written across it, telling the jurors that she would sell the clothing and donate all proceeds to victims of domestic abuse. Okay, yes, I know what you're saying, and yes, this pissed me off.
Oh my gosh.
Could you think of something worse to do, Jodi? You lost that part of the case. You did not prove domestic violence. Okay? And you're infuriated. If I were a juror member and I was pretty much always like, don't believe you on that, and you showed me a picture, you're still pulling that card, Jodi, that would have infuriated me if I were a juror member.
She's really out there. I mean, she's
you're telling them not to give you. They are literally deciding if you live or die.
How long was it between the interview and her doing this right here? How long? Do you know how long the period of time?
A couple weeks.
Was?
I can't. It was in May. They were both in May.
Okay, so they're both in May. It was within a couple weeks. Oh my gosh.
She's not letting it go. That's the thing. You told your lie. No one believed it. And I know she wants to keep up her story because it was, quote, the truth in her eyes. But
It's delusional.
Just...
Extremely delusional.
Anyway. Absolutely ridiculous. But she also said she would donate her hair to Lots of Love while in prison, and had already done so 3 times while in jail. So basically, she's saying all these things. This is why you should keep me alive. I'll sell these t-shirts.
She's got great hair.
I'll donate the proceeds to a domestic violence victims, and Lots of Love. This is why you should keep me alive. To tell you the truth,
I think there are people out there that would probably buy her hair if she sold it on
oh my gosh.
The internet, on whatever. I mean, there are some
weirdos.
Yeah, more eccentric, crazy people out there.
So, that evening, in a joint jailhouse interview with the Arizona Republic, 12 News, and NBC's Today Show, of course she gave an interview. Of course she gave an interview right after this trial too.
Oh my gosh.
And she said she did not know whether the jury would come back with life or death. And she said, quote, "Whatever they come back with, I will have to deal with it." Of course you will, Jodi.
Mm-hmm.
"I have no other choice." Regarding the verdict, she said, "It felt like a huge sense of unreality. I felt betrayed, actually, by the jury. I was hoping they would see things for what they are. I felt really awful for my family and what they were thinking."
The family didn't show up.
No, her family was there.
Her family was there, but nobody stood up to defend.
Her mom was sitting there watching.
They just sat there?
Yep.
And that's even worse. I thought you were saying, like, they didn't even show up.
No,
but you're saying that they came, and they were like, all right, would anybody like to speak in her behalf? And everybody was, like, putting their hands over their head, their eyes.
It wasn't like a wedding, like, speak. Anybody want to speak? No.
Speak now or forever hold your peace. And they're all just, like, had their heads down.
All these witnesses were decided beforehand. So they knew they weren't coming up.
I know, I was just making
and Jodi
making it more
and we don't know
exciting.
Behind the scenes. Like, Jodi could have told them, don't speak or whatever.
Don't speak.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
So, on May 23rd, 2013, the sentencing phase of Arias' trial resulted in a hung jury. And if you're unfamiliar with that phrase, this means that the jury went back to deliberate, could not come to a unanimous agreement, because as you know,
yeah,
juries must do that. If there's one holdout, then it's a hung jury. And it turns out it was just one woman who was holding out, which prompted the judge to declare a mistrial for that phase, only the penalty phase. The jury had reached an 8-4 decision in favor of, it was 4 that were holdouts, I guess.
Oh, 4 of them
were holdouts.
Okay.
The jury had reached an 8-4 decision in favor of the death penalty. So 8 wanted the death penalty.
Okay, so 8 were for, 4 were against.
Yeah. So there was a mistrial of this part, which means that she is still eligible for the death penalty. They just have to decide, is she going to get it? And they have to do another trial, since that was a hung jury.
Let's spend more tax money.
Why not? But you have to keep in mind...
Wait, is this 1.7 that we mentioned earlier? Is that part of this as well? Was it 1.7?
That was before. That was
just for that?
That was in 2012. Before the trial even started.
Gosh. I was hoping that you would say, oh, no, the 1.7 was for everything altogether.
Nope.
No, wrong.
But you have to keep in mind, what if this was your trial? What if this was your life? You know what I'm saying?
I would be ashamed of myself for stabbing someone.
Of course. I would be ashamed too, and I would never be in this situation. However, what if you were in this situation? You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're going to fight for your life, obviously. Yeah. Humans are, they're automatically pre-programmed to save their own life. If somebody's pushing them underwater, they're going to fight to get back out of there.
So, after the mistrial was declared and the jury discharged, the jury foreman stated that he believed Arias... All right, so, pause. After this, the jury, that has been the jury this entire time, is now able to step out and speak with the media if they so choose to do so. And one man in particular, who was the jury foreman, which I don't know if you know what that means.
Yes.
He was the person who kind of conducted all of their meetings and discussions.
Right.
He stated that he believed Jodi was mentally abused by Travis, but that had not been enough to excuse her crime, which is basically what we said.
Yeah.
He also said that, quote, "I think 18 days on the stand hurt her. I think she was not a good witness. We're charged with presuming innocence, right? But she was on the stand for so long, there were so many contradicting stories, end quote. He also said the jury found the responsibility of weighing the death sentence was overwhelming, but were horrified when their efforts ended in a mistrial. He said, quote, "By the end of it, we were mentally and emotionally exhausted. I think we were horrified when we found out that they had actually called a mistrial, and we felt like we had failed."
Wow. Gosh, that's a lot for, hearing it from a jury member.
Yeah. And he was a foreman, and I watched his interview, and he seemed like a reasonable enough guy. Like
he was put together.
He did look at both sides. Like, he did say he felt that there was enough evidence for mental abuse, which a lot of other juror members came out and said that.
So it would have been it would have been a closer trial if she just would not have got on the stand.
That he didn't say that. He just said that it definitely didn't help her case that she got up on the stand.
Okay, so
He said she was not a good witness. She was caught in too many lies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and another jury member said that whenever she would spar with Juan Martinez, just like we were talking about how that was probably not a good thing, one juror member came out and said that for her personally made her look extremely bad. It made her look just like not a good person. You know what I mean? Like someone who's like coming off like, well, blah, 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 blah.
Like pretentious or?
Yeah, just like presumptuous of her own innocence,
okay.
That kind of thing. Like, how dare you ask me
whenever
these
she
questions?
got on there and said, I'll be surprised if they find me guilty.
Or no jury will convict.
Oh yeah, that's
that
right.
kind of
no
attitude.
jury will convict.
And she had this smarmy, arrogant attitude with Juan Martinez, and it just did not look well on her. And several jury members said this. So, not a good idea, Jodi. On October 21st, 2013, Jodi's sentencing retrial began. Opening statements were given and a hearing on evidence was held. Jury deliberations began on February 12th, 2014. On March 2nd, 2014, the jury informed Judge Stevens that they were deadlocked.
Oh my gosh.
So, Jodi's attorneys also requested again a mistrial.
Yeah, of course.
But the judge denied this request, read additional instructions to the jury, and ordered them to resume their deliberations.
All right, I'm going to ask you this. I don't know if you know this or not, but if they keep having like hung juries, does it just keep going and going and going, or is there finally
eventually
like an end?
What will happen is the judge will decide herself. Him or herself.
The judge will actually make the decision for them.
If things keep happening.
Do you know how many times? And
I don't know if it's actually up to the
questions
defendant. And I know in some states it's up to the defendant what they want to do. They're like, do you want to keep having jury trial, or would you rather the judge
make the
decide?
Decision. Okay.
I don't know if it's different in each state, but I know that is that happens sometimes. Jodi's attorneys requested, I just read that. Ordered them, all right, so she read them instructions and ordered them to go and resume deliberations. On March 5th, 2014, Judge Stevens declared a mistrial because the jurors, who deliberated for about 26 hours over 5 days, deadlocked at 11-1 vote in favor of the death penalty. See, this was the one I was talking about where there was one holdout.
You would have been that jury member in there like, no, I'm sorry, I cannot kill somebody.
So, sentencing was scheduled for April 7, 2014, with Stevens having the option to sentence Arias to either life imprisonment without the possibility of parole or with the possibility of parole after 25 years. So, now it's after the 11-1 holdout, now it's in the judge's hands. She's going to decide.
All right, so this would have came to my answer. So,
on April 13th, Stevens sentenced Arias to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
That's always a good thing.
Until March 5th, 2015, Arias' trial cost an estimated $3 million. So there's your answer for how much total it was.
Oh my gosh. $3 million worth of taxpayers' money?
Does that make you happy?
Yeah, I'm ecstatic about that.
So after she had her sentencings and whatnot, Jodi's attorney started giving some interviews while Martinez started giving interviews. In an interview on April 8th, 2014, Arias' not lead defense attorney, but someone on her team, Jennifer Wilmot, discussed the social media for death threats she had received, being Jodi's attorney, and Jodi's statements at the sentencing. The holdout juror and stated that she believed Jodi testified truthfully. This is what her female lawyer said.
Right.
Okay. In June 2014, following a restitution hearing, Jodi was ordered to pay more than $32,000 to Travis's siblings. Jodi's attorney stated this was about 1/3 of the amount requested.
So I assume that she owned things to sell to pay the $32,000, because how's she going to do that if she's in prison?
That's what I'm saying. I don't really know how that works. I don't know if you file for bankruptcy and the bank pays them, because if she's not getting out, she's not going to have a chance to make money.
Unless she's making
Unless she's
license
doing
plates
things
in prison.
What do you do in prison with money? That's what I'm saying. Like, what do you do in prison with money? Like, what do you buy?
You pay like $30, or no, you like $50 for a pack of cigarettes, and
that's your joy.
Yeah, that's your joy.
As of 2016, Jodi is housed at the Arizona Department of Corrections, number 281129, which is located at Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville. She started her sentence in the complex's maximum security Lumley unit, but she has the possibility of being downgraded to the medium security level. And one thing I was going to bring up is there was Kirk Nurmi had recently Jodi had filed from prison, basically trying to get another trial, as many people in trial so often try to do, and I don't know all the details. She was accusing her attorneys of being inadequate attorneys, basically. And this was as recent as 2017, where
that could have been true because they wanted to get out of it, and they were probably doing like a.
If I were Jodi, though, honestly, and I had two attorneys so desperate to get out of my case, I probably would have been, and it was early enough.
I've been like, get out.
I would probably be like, go. I need someone who's gonna help me.
Yeah.
You know. So that
nobody would have taken it.
So Jodi is she's still housed. In the Arizona State Prison Complex, still avidly trying to get her case reopened, as most prisoners are, I'm certain. But that's kind of where the information ends.
I thought I read something online that says that she was trying to put in an appeal or something, but she wanted to keep the appeal secret. I didn't know if you could do that or not. But she said it was to protect certain parties, quote unquote, certain parties. That's what she said.
Just like she claimed she didn't reveal the self-defense of Travis because she wanted to protect Travis's reputation. BS. And then she goes on trial and calls him a pedophile.
Right, exactly.
It was to protect him.
So, but, you know, I was just reading articles online of where she is today. Sometimes I just find articles to try to post on Twitter, you know, but then I was like, maybe I shouldn't post it because it may be in the podcast and I didn't want to ruin it for anybody. But I think that the appeal, you know, did not go through. I'm almost positive. Don't quote me on that. Natalie is the one that is the queen of researching this stuff.
I didn't research this aspect of what he's talking about. He actually found it and had sent it to me, and admittedly, I did not investigate it further just because I had enough on my plate with this case.
Yeah, I mean, she has. I mean, you saw it was. This is
very
the fourth.
Recent.
Yeah, fourth, and this is very recent. This was the article that I read about her. Oh, that's right, her cellmate, I think it is.
Oh, I did hear about this.
Yes.
But I'll let you.
Her cellmate talked to, who was it? I can't remember who they talked to, but it was some kind of media.
Some source.
Yeah, some media source. And she was saying that she tattooed her name. Jodi tattooed her name on her.
It was her previous cellmate also.
Was it a previous cellmate?
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
one
previous
she's
cellmate. Not
currently living with.
Not the one she's currently living with. But she said that she has a tattoo of, I don't know if it's her first name or her last name, but Jodi that's how she made money in prison.
Wait, she tattooed her own name on her?
Yeah, Jodi tattooed her own name on her cellmate. The one that, yeah.
Did her cellmate want her to do that?
The way she talked, she was kind of nervous around her. Like Jodi was kind of, well, as we know, crazy. She said
Well, you know she doesn't, like, she's in an all-women prison. You can imagine this is very difficult for her because she, remember how I told you about how she did want to talk to the female cop? Like, because girls see through what she does.
Right.
And so it's probably very difficult for her to be around so many women.
Well, her name was Tracy Brown, and for 5 months, she had a permanent reminder of the killer in the form of 6 tattoos, all personally inked by Arias. One of the tattoos even has Arias' name on it. She admitted that having Arias' name scrawled on her ankle is the biggest mistake she ever made.
Thank goodness you can get rid of tattoos now.
Yeah, but it's painful, I've heard.
Might be worth it.
Probably, I would say so.
But didn't she say that, going on with the cellmate, didn't the cellmate say that, of course, Casey Anthony had a cellmate that said the same thing, but didn't Jodi's cellmate say something about Jodi telling her that Travis, that she did it, but Travis wasn't the intended target or something?
It said
like
something
that?
about that she told her that while they were cellmates at, what was it?
She started crying at
Estrella?
night.
Is that one of... I think it was Estrella jail in Arizona that she confessed to her. That
She was like, one night
him.
she was crying or something,
she
and she
killed
asked her what was
Travis.
wrong.
Well, she said that Travis was not the intended target. She was hoping to
She did go
catch-
there to plan someone to kill. She did go there trying to kill someone, but
Right.
it wasn't
That was
necessarily
her
going to
plan.
be Travis.
But the cellmate, and we can't say this is fact. This is just
Again,
a
yeah, because
cellmate.
this is a cellmate, and she could have been doing this to gain attention. There's nothing to bolster this, but this is just what she said, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, she said that Travis was dating Lisa.
Lisa,
I think her
yeah.
name? Yeah, Lisa, and was having sex with Jodi on the side in secret, and she went there to catch him in the act and murder Lisa. And like I said, I don't know if this is true.
Still creepy.
But, I mean, wow.
It's just weird. But it also doesn't make sense because it's like, once she got there and saw that she wasn't there, what would have driven her to kill Travis?
This is what I was thinking. My thought was, she saw that Lisa was not there, and so she knocked on the door. Travis answers the door. They go in. Things start getting a little hot and heavy. He gets in the shower. She's taking pictures, and then he's saying things to her. You know how we think that he might be verbally abusive and everything, and
maybe he's talking about other girls to her.
Right, that's
or maybe
what I'm
he's
saying.
talking
Maybe
about,
he's
I'm
talking
going
about
to
Lisa.
Cancun. No, he's going Mimi Hall to Cancun.
Right. He could be talking about any girl. And so she, in a fit of rage,
So maybe she brought the weapons there to not necessarily kill Travis, maybe kill somebody else. Maybe she didn't really honestly plan on using it on anybody once he was there by himself. But then maybe, like you said, he started saying things and...
Why would she, no, bringing a gun means you're looking to kill somebody.
No, kill somebody, but maybe, like you said, maybe
Right,
not
maybe
Travis.
not Travis, but yeah, she was going there to kill somebody.
I'm trying to think if any of the things premeditation evidence we talked about led to specifically Travis. But, I mean, none of it really does. It leads to, I'm concealing a murder in Arizona,
right.
but it doesn't necessarily mean to Travis.
Right.
So, maybe, possibly, it is word of mouth.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put
it is word
much
of mouth.
merit
I'm
in
not
it.
saying it's fact. I'm just saying that that's a very good hypothesis. And
it did come from a cellmate. I mean, what does she have to lose? She has fame to gain, I guess, but...
Exactly. She got her how many minutes of fame on there?
And we had a Jodi, or Casey Anthony, rather, a cellmate do the same thing. Say that she confessed to killing her daughter and all that crap. So.
Okay, so, all right. So, take it at whatever
Take it for
value
what
you want
will.
to.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
But, alas, let us get to the very end part of this podcast, which is everyone's favorite part. Let's talk about our opinions of this entire case.
Oh, I think I've been giving my opinion the entire...
I'm going to share mine.
The entire miniseries.
Yeah, I feel like
Just
I have to. But, ultimately, this is what I believe of what happened. I believe it was premeditated. I think there's more than enough evidence to prove premeditation. Personally, what ultimately convinced me about the premeditation was the gas cans.
Yes.
the purchase of the gas cans.
3 of them.
Yeah. And like Juan Martinez said, he found that information so, compelling and so convincing, that so much so that he kept it to himself because he knew it was going to be a bombshell. Which to me, when I read that and when I saw it in court, it was for me as well. Even, I have to say this, Daryl Brewer, when he was on the stand and when he asked him, by the way, did Jodi ask to borrow 2 gas cans from you before she went to Mesa? And you could hear him, you could almost hear, there was a long pause, and you could hear him gulp audibly, Daryl Brewer, and he said really quietly, yes.
See that? Now you should have had the audio for that so we could have played that on.
I really wish I had, because even Juan Martinez wrote in his book that, like, you could tell in Daryl's eyes he had just realized, oh my gosh, I might have helped her kill somebody.
Yeah. Could you imagine that? Somebody be,
it's
amazing not really
he didn't
helping.
know that already.
It's not really helping. It'd be like, hey, can I borrow your gas can? Sure. They borrow it. And then
he didn't realize, though, until on the stand after knowing about all the evidence, why she took those gas cans.
Yeah. I mean, it's a defining moment in one's life when you realize that you...
It was crazy. Like,
just help somebody get murdered.
It was a very palpable moment. But when it comes to their relationship, so in essence, I think, let me just tell you this. I think that it was premeditated. I think that she was planning to do it. I think, was it jealousy? Was it because she's crazy? I think it was a little bit of both. I think that she wanted to marry Travis. I think that she was upset because all the time, you're not good enough for me, is basically all he said, except in the bedroom, you're good enough for me there. But only there.
He was like, you're the best.
Right. But not good enough for me to marry. And probably for Jodi, that was extremely difficult to hear, especially because she's someone in a relationship who changes herself to match the person that she's with. And maybe she felt like, I've done all this changing for you. I've given you physically everything. I don't know about other things. I don't know if, she was extremely clingy, but, she didn't cheat on him. She was faithful to him, that kind of stuff. So maybe she just felt like it wasn't fair. And maybe it's not, but Travis...
It's no reason to kill somebody.
When it comes to Travis, and honestly, in her... If thinking about Jodi, if I were acquainted with Jodi during this time and you see she was in a relationship with Travis, I'm surprised none of her friends told her this or her parents.
To get out of
that, because he's dragging you along.
It's a toxic relationship.
Well, not only that, he was clearly stringing her along. He clearly wanted her for one thing and one thing only. And
sometimes when you're inside the relationship, it's hard to see that. That's why you need those close friends that tell you, hey man, you sure you should be in this relationship? Or, hey girl,
this is what I see going on.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know, maybe she didn't have that close of friends to help her out.
She really didn't. I mean, and she didn't tell her parents about him either.
Right, so that would make it hard on her.
Yeah. So she didn't really have anyone to give her that outside perspective.
Maybe she wasn't crazy until she started dating Travis.
But Travis, on the other hand, we wouldn't really know about the crazy because Daryl always said good things about her.
Exactly.
And about her other 2 boyfriends, they could have been like, oh no, she was a crazy bee. You know what I mean? We don't know.
Right. So it could have been one way or the other. It could have been she was crazy most of her life, or Travis
crazy.
Drove her insane because he kept leading her on.
Yeah, because he was one who didn't, she had found someone finally that she wanted to really, really commit to.
She loved him,
and he did not.
I will say that she loved him.
And it was funny because what was probably so frustrating for her is that he was ready to commit, just not to you.
Right.
And
that would be heartbreaking.
And maybe she hung around, trying to convince him otherwise. And she honestly used sex as a tool. Mm-hmm. I really feel like she did.
Oh, no, I agree with that. 100%.
She loved him. You want to be around the person you love. How can I be around you? What makes him want to be around me?
Yeah.
Sex.
It goes both ways. He led her on, and she used her wiles to keep him around.
To make him keep her around. Yeah, because he, on the other hand, had a lot of friends telling him, this girl's crazy, get away from her, all this stuff. And maybe that's why he didn't, date her anymore, but still kept her on the side because, behind closed doors, whatever.
Right.
But when it comes to Travis, like I said, yeah, he shouldn't have been leading her on. Lots of guys do this. It's nothing new. It's nothing to be killed over.
Guilty.
I mean, lots of guys have done this for different reasons. I mean, I've done it. I'm a girl. I've done it before, and I'm not proud of doing it. I shouldn't. I shouldn't have done it.
When you get older, you learn that's wrong, and you should not do that. You should just break it off.
No one's proud of it, but lots of people have done it. Travis was not the first person to do something like that. He's probably also wasn't the first person to call a girl a slut or a B or any number of things. Should he have done it? Is it verbal abuse? Yes. Should he have done it? No. But do lots of people do it? Sure. They sure do.
Yep.
Travis was human. There was nothing exceedingly abnormal about him. Jodi, there were numerous things abnormal about her. I think what it comes down to is this was a very toxic and could have been somewhat normal relationship. And the problem was Jodi was the outlier. She discovered these things and
manipulated.
Well, it's almost like she had this relationship and it was too much for her brain. You know what I mean? Like something that for someone of a normal brain capacity, it would have been, all right, fine, whatever, he's leading me on, whatever. This makes me sad, this makes me mad, but whatever, I'm going to
you're saying she didn't have the...
she didn't know how to deal with it. This is something that happens...
coping skills that people learn.
This kind of toxic relationship happens all the time with multiple people around the world. What I'm telling you is that Jodi, as a person, did not know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she probably didn't have, people in her life that she could look at and see, this is what a healthy relationship looks like. This is the way.
And she also didn't have any feedback. She didn't have any friends telling her, look, this is what he's doing to you. You really need to get out of that relationship. Yeah, and so I don't know. I just feel like this is, like I said before, this kind of relationship happens all the time. And is it a good? No, but like I said, Jodi is someone, she has mental instabilities. She couldn't handle it. She didn't know what to do. And so she lashed out. She was so angry, all this pent-up aggression. Maybe all this verbal abuse that probably was stuck in her mind, all this frustration with why he doesn't want to marry me, hearing about Mimi Hall, hearing about other girls, and then, boom, took it all out of him.
Makes sense.
And yeah, she would have had to calculate it and plan it because she was relatively smaller than him. She probably decided a while back that that's what she wanted to do. I mean... She's crazy. That's all I mean, what do you think?
I think that she went there to kill somebody. I'm not going to say who because she did take the gun. She used the gas cans, so it was premeditated. We realized that.
It was 100% premeditated.
But I still love the theory of the cellmate saying that she was going to go kill the main girl, the girl that, he was supposed to be with.
But he wasn't dating her at this time.
Right. He's not dating her, but they were still talking, still hanging out, being at the house. So if she thought that she can get there and murder whoever her is.
And honestly, what would the in-game situation be? What would her ideal in-game situation be?
In her mind, she was probably thinking, kill her, she's out of the way, and Travis will love me. But that's a psychotic mind.
That's a psychotic mindset, exactly.
So she's not going to think straight either way. She wasn't thinking straight whenever she was getting... she's probably laying in bed at night, not sleeping, and probably sleep-deprived, and just thinking, okay, all I got to do is get a gun, I got to get some gas cans, I got to make sure my license plate is upside down, I got to do all these things... And she's not thinking straight. This is just all going downhill. When she got there, it just pretty much went all to hell.
And I also wondered, too, if maybe she did premeditate it. She brought all this stuff. She very much intended to have a murder go down. But then when she got there, And maybe he was being sweet to her. Maybe,
That
he
is
was
a
like,
possibility. I thought
and
about
then,
that, yes.
And then she was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And then
he probably said something.
Maybe he said something.
It triggered her.
And it had to be before he got in the shower because she had the knife behind her back.
Well, she had the knife behind her back.
We don't know that, but we know it started when he was in the shower, so she had to have hidden it somewhere.
Wait, did they say whether the gunshot came first or the stabbing came first?
The medical examiner proved that the stab wounds had to have come first because if not, he would not have been able to move.
Okay, yes, that's right. That's right. To defend himself.
Right.
So she did have the knife. So he was saying something sweet, got her in the house, and then he started being a dick or whatever.
After he got what he wanted from her.
Right, after he got what he wanted, and she was like, you know what, I'm not taking this anymore. She probably had the gun in her purse. If she had that, I'm just trying to paint a picture in my head.
And think about that borderline personality disorder.
Right, exactly. So she's just flipping from one side to the other, extreme opposites. She's going in there. She has the knife. She has the gun. He's in the shower. She starts stabbing him.
Well, she has to start taking
the pictures. No, I know that. She's taking the pictures. And in the midst of taking pictures, she starts stabbing him. And I assume she probably drops the camera the way the picture looks because it's,
Yeah, she probably just, dropped it thinking.
And so she's stabbing him. And then aren't they in the hallway at one point?
This is how Juan Martinez said it goes down. He says that she stabbed him in the shower. He's trying to defend himself in the shower. And then he crawls out of the shower, puts his hands up on his sink, because this is what the blood spatter shows. Mm-hmm. And he's like coughing up blood into the sink. And meanwhile, she's behind him, stabbing him over and over again. And then he falls and starts crawling to the hallway. And that's when she catches up to him and slits his throat.
Okay.
And then she drags him back and then shoots him in the shower. Yeah. And then, I forgot to say this during the trial. This was during the penalty phase when Jodi was talking after the victim impact statements had gone. She actually turned to the family and said that some of her memory had been coming back from that day.
Oh, I'm sure.
And she said, I do want to go ahead and say to the family that I have been having some flashbacks from that day. And I don't remember exactly what context she said this in, but she indicated that Travis had been conscious when she slit his throat.
She said that to them?
She said that. And I don't know where she was going with that. Like, I don't remember why she said it, but she said it. And many people thought it was just because she had lost a trial and she was trying to kind of twist that knife wound in his family.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah,
I just wanted to throw that in there.
That's my. But
it does go to our thoughts about the killing because if he was conscious, that had to have been the last thing that killed him, and then the gunshot was just good measure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Craziness.
I don't know if I can handle another case like this for a while. I mean, we need to do some paranormal or some conspiracies.
Well, I do have
so I can get some good laughs in because this is really draining.
It's really draining. It's really hard to.
I try to add some humor in there, but it's hard on this because it's just like
so depressing.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and there's a lot of similarities between Jodi and Casey. I think Casey's a little smarter than Jodi.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I love the true crime. I love because I get so engulfed in whenever you're telling the story and all the details.
Thank you.
But the paranormal is just fun for me because, you're the believer,
I know, because
I'm the skeptic.
You just don't like this because there's nothing you can debunk in it. It's all true.
Well, no, I could say my thoughts in these, and you could think one way and I could think the other.
You just like it because we know our listeners love to hear us go head-to-head and argue.
Oh, yeah, they do love it. I get comments all the time about, no, you're right, I don't believe in ghosts and all that stuff, and then others are like, no, I believe in it. Stay strong, Natalie. Don't let him push you around.
I stand my ground.
You do stand your ground. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody for hanging with us for these
definitely this
4 parts.
But I do want to say that next week we'll be back fresh with just a one-parter.
Yes.
And I already know what the new discussion topic will be. It will not be paranormal. It will not be true crime. It will not be pop culture. It's going to be a good old conspiracy theory.
All right, but we did promise one person that we were going to do, what was the trail? Something trail. But we are going to put that one off at least one more episode. Because Natalie got really excited. She heard something on, I guess it was YouTube or whatever.
I was like, I want to talk about this.
She just comes running in like, we have to talk about this on the next episode. Everybody's going to love it. And I'm like, all right, what is it?
Nope.
Tell them what it is. Do you want to tell them or do you want to wait and just...
I think we should wait.
Okay, that's fine. Billy,
just tune in
she was excited about it. It's going to be a good
one.
I think it's interesting.
It's going to be a good one. It's something that we both kind of give merit to.
Yes. I don't know if I give... It's interesting.
Give it some
You're
merit.
going to find out.
There's some things about it that are provable.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right. We'll say that.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, like we said at the beginning, we have some podcast friends that helped out with trying to get our
tech
sound
issues.
our tech issues fixed, because you could hear in part 3, at least we could.
And we didn't want to re-record.
We didn't want to re-record because it's too hard to...
We explained that at the beginning.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't have been candid.
Be candid. So I just want to let you guys listen to their promos, and here you go.
Are there real ghosts in Miss Pac-Man? Are satanic secrets hidden in your Excel spreadsheet? Did Pokemon cause a spike in suicides in Japan? Hello gamers, I'm Tim Gibson, host of the Cabinet Podcast. I look at the strange occurrences behind your favorite video games. A new weird creepy story drops every 2 weeks on Wednesdays. That's the Cabinet Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms.
Hey you! Yeah you! What are you doing after you finish this great podcast you're listening to?
Well, whatever it is, you're going to blow that off and listen to the IMDb Journey podcast instead, hosted by Daniel, that's me.
And Dean, that's me. Join us on our journey as we tackle the IMDb Top 250 list, breaking down one movie a week, giving our own rankings as we go, as well as our incredibly intelligent and insightful thoughts too.
We also throw in a random quiz or movie battle every once in a while and have a punt on it, because us Aussies, we love a good punt.
Daniel, this is a G-rated promo, you can't say that.
I said punt, Dean. Punt. You dickhead. So come join us on the journey by subscribing to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other podcast apps, and follow us on Twitter at IMDb Journey.
And now back to your regular scheduled programming.
Hi, I'm Nick,
I'm Dan,
and we're from the St. Paul Filmcast.
and we talk movies.
Yeah, we talk independent, local, classical, modern, and even new films.
And where can they find us, Nick?
Well, you guys can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. You can also find us on Twitter at St. Paul Filmcast.
Hope you show up.
Yeah, we hope so. Once again, that's the St. Paul Filmcast. And now back to your regular scheduled programming. I always wanted to say that.
All right, so yeah, give these guys a listen. I love listening to them. Great podcasts.
Great people.
Yeah, great people in general. We talk to them on Twitter, and they're always looking. It's like we look out for each other. Natalie was saying, I check on Twitter all the time, and I see this Potter family, and I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's like a group of us that we get together.
Family.
And yeah, it is. It's like one big happy family that helps each other out. If somebody has tech issues, they help them out. If somebody needs some shout outs or tweets or whatever, retweets, we're there for each other. So I think that'll wrap up this episode.
That'll wrap it up. That'll wrap up this series.
Make sure you get on iTunes and click that 5 star, or not get on iTunes. If you're already on iTunes, then go ahead and click the 5 stars. If you want to give us a review, give us a review. We'd love to hear from you. Maybe give us an idea of what you'd like to hear.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us, and we really hope you tune in for next week. I think you guys will really enjoy next week's topic.
Oh, I think they will.
Okay.
So thanks for listening to Conspired.
Conspired.